le choix parmi ces candidatures va se révéler très difficile et nous avons déjà discuté une bonne heure pour dégager les meilleures candidatures.
Comme il y a eu beaucoup plus de dossiers que l'année dernière, nous avons décidé de diviser le jury en deux. Chaque jury a pu regarder 50 dossiers et sélectionner 10 candidates.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to welcome you all on this very important and exciting event because today we're going to discuss the hot topic, and this hot topic is the Dia City concept and also what are the conditions that it will bring and also the consequences for the economy that Dia City is going to to have. So my name is Natalia Veremeeva and I'm the moderator of today's panel. This conference is organized by the French Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and is supported by the French Tech Kyiv, and TechUkraine. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. So first of all, it's Oleksandr Borniakov, Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation. So please, let's welcome our panelists. Bertrand, lawyer partner at Jeantet, president of the French Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So Bertrand, thank you very much, welcome. And Louis Bellet, entrepreneur and co-founder of Openware. So thank you, Louis, also for being here. My first question will be to Alex, because you are one of the founding fathers, so to say, of Dia City concept. So my question is, what is Dia City, and why did you decide to create it, and what goals do you want to achieve with this?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And first of all, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation with our French friends and partners. And according to video, it's so much being done. Yeah, I think that's for an entire year or even more. But yeah. Anyway, so to address your question, Dія City, first of all, by its nature, and we are speaking like legal terms probably, it's a legal framework, special legal framework, a legislative framework consisting of 3 laws, which first one is, we call it like a basic law that describes what it is, how to administer it, how to manage it, what's the terms of getting in, getting out, and a bunch of other things, describing well, including venture tools description and its legislative nature and the description in Ukrainian laws. The second law is basically about taxes, because the major benefits, probably we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there are a lot of tax benefits, and those are, according to Ukrainian legislative system, all the amendments to the tax code that should be going like a separate law. So another law is describing which taxes, how they work, how they implement it. And the third one, which is actually in development still, those are amendments to the criminal code, mostly related to safety of the business, especially for our foreign partners, assuring that if there would be any kind of prosecution, then there's a special attention to computers, to the servers, and separate procedures in order to prevent like stopping the business from, because like computer and servers and people actually the major capital of any IT company. So we decided to kind of put an end to unconditional or ungrounded, not based, ungrounded attention of enforcement agencies. Yeah, so that would be Dія City, and
the question was, what goals did you want to achieve? Like, why did you decide to create it? What is the meta objective?
Well, there was a vision that we could become the biggest IT hub in Eastern Europe, and it's all actually started from this vision that how we can become the major player in Eastern Europe, not just because we could become, and we're actually one of the biggest outsourced destination, but also as a place for R&D centers, for companies that create own IT products, for developed and scaled startup ecosystem with their huge representative and with a bunch of venture funds fueling this startup ecosystem. So we combine all there was a number of initiatives into a big one. So this is actually Dія City. This is how we came up with it. Let's instead of introducing one by one, let's just get all the problems, all their ideas, all the best practices, combine into a set of laws and implement it in as a one project. So the goal was to first of all, to increase the number of companies, to increase their share of IT in Ukrainian GDP, to give access to startups, to venture capital, and bring big foreign companies like tech giants to Ukraine. So the number of initiatives and number of goals it's actually Dія City.
Thank you, Alex. Really sounds really exciting and very promising for the country. And Bertrand, I wanted to ask you a question about the details about legislation. You are as a lawyer, probably you just already digged deep into like what are the special conditions and what are the criteria that companies just can join. So can you
Okay. Thank you, Natalia. Yes, I sure can make a presentation of the legal criteria. I think Oleksandr already summed up that there are 3 pillars to the law. One is the general legal framework, the second one relates to the tax benefits that are offered, and the third one to the criminal liability. If we look at the criteria to become a Diia City resident, they are quite simple. You need to be a Ukrainian company, so you cannot be. It's not for currently a FOP or a chez to participate. You need to have a company with at least 9 developers. So that means that basically it's if you are a FOP or international company, you are not going to be a resident of the Diia law, but for evident reasons. In terms of the legal framework that is given to you, it defines. We have to understand where we come from currently. Maybe currently, to understand the IT industry is well functioning. Of course, it's a very large part of the Ukrainian GDP. But from a perspective of foreign investors, sometimes or most of the time, there are certain issues when you look at IT companies. First is the fact that you can have, you have companies from 100, 200, 1,000 developers and more. All the developers are under a civil law contract, a FOP, which is very tax profitable, but at the same time raises a certain number of issues. You don't meet and you don't have, or difficult to enforce in Ukraine, certain provisions that you would expect internationally to find, non-compete, non-solicitation, NDAs, all of that. That has been introduced into the law, and that's of course, from a foreign perspective or a foreign investor perspective, to have a legal framework which is much more defined is much more securing in terms of investments. I mean, as you said, I run a law firm in Ukraine, and of course these are the main questions every investors, and we have quite large transactions in the sector, and these are always the questions that arise at a point of time. So I think there are a lot of debates about the law. We will maybe come to it into who wants to or not join Diia City, maybe. But from a foreign perspective or foreign investor perspective, of course, this looks much more regulated. In terms of tax advantages, there is a clear tax advantage given with a flat rate on taxation. There is a special for the people that will be working for these companies that will have a gig contract. We might also come back to that. So, which is regulated, and as I said, will be able to contain provisions that are internationally used. You will have, as a company, you will have to adhere to the Diia City regime. You will be under certain scrutiny of the ministry, and you will have to make a report, an annual report by an independent auditors on your activities to ensure that 90% of your activity derives from the IT sector, which is also self-explaining and the reason why. So yeah, that's maybe what we can say about the general framework, how it is. The first part of the law has been implemented. The second part is going to be voted pretty shortly, and the third part on criminal liability and the fact that only higher-ups, hierarchy prosecutors could prosecute the company will be launched most probably during the first semester of next year.
But do you think that what is offering, like the offering in the Diia City concept currently is competitive internationally? So is it like attractive for international companies to join in? What do you? Because probably you know different jurisdictions.
Yes, I would say that Ukraine as such is an attractive IT destination today. So I mean. When you look at the press over the last couple of years, and especially this year, the large transactions have been made, large investments have been made in the sector. It's a big part of the economy of the GDP of Ukraine. It's one of the, it is the first export of Ukraine, even before agro sector over the last 2 years. So the sector is very attractive. Now, what happens is that to attract capital, and as Alexander said, to attract venture capital, foreign investments, larger transactions, M&A transactions, what was missing was a framework where you have these companies are better regulated with principles that already exist almost everywhere. So it's to bring it. The sector is competitive currently, very competitive, of course, but it's to enable more and to make it even better as what it is today, maybe, and that's the aim. Is to make it more regulated. That's the aim.
Thank you so much for the answer. And here, I think a question to Louis about, like, you are being already a company American, but also with French roots, right? And just you as a company. So, how do you feel about Diia City? Does it correspond to your needs, to needs of other international companies? So, what is your opinion about it?
So yeah, to answer, I can explain that when I first arrived, I was probably 23. It was 2009, and I first established the company and met with Ernst & Young, and they explained me how you have to structure an IT company, and that was quite a surprise. And arriving here with the French business experience, I had something else in mind, more something like Diia City is today. So it's been 10 years past, and now I'm more than happy to hear about things moving. We thought after Maiden things would move as well, but I'm still using the same structure, and I'm quite interested in the opportunity and ready to make the move, the change. This brings enough benefit and while staying competitive. So this is very interesting.
Okay, so thank you for this positive feedback, Alex. And you already mentioned how you proceed with the adoption of the laws. So, and what are your forecasts? When will Diia City start working?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I also was a founder of a company back like 15 years ago, and it's really was no changes for more than a decade, and we felt this change, and we're actually going to provide even personal support for those who will be newcomers. So you're welcome to join once we're ready, which I will answer right now about. So I believe that it's 2 weeks from now. We will finish with Parliament will support the tax amendments. Like Bertrand said, it's just left second hearing, and we're good to go. So, and for the general framework law, the procedures are being finalized. So, we aim for second half of January. So that's about months from now. Probably there could be like slight delays, but we're going to start getting applications anyway, because the system, website. What I'm trying to say also that there was one of the things that we promised the business that is going to be fully automated. So we don't want a business just provide us with endless paperwork proving that they're worth to be a part of this or the residency. And what we aim to do is so you while registering, you just put your company name with this company code, and then we internally just are doing all the homework on our side. Checking all the databases. There are a number of criteria that we need to check, and we want to do this fully automated. Maybe in January it's not going to be fully automated, so there's going to be some manual process. But because this is just the fresh start, and we hope that everything is going to be working by January. So starting from January, we're going to receive application one way or another, and companies, according to the law, like the next day, while after they were put in the registry, which is going to be online too. So it's basically will be website with the list of the companies. So once you're there, you're a resident. You don't need any like proving like papers or like a certificate. That's nothing. No, so that's not required according to the law. So basically, your presence in this registry means that you're residents and you're capable or you fully. What's the word I'm looking for? You're eligible to get those benefits.
Okay, sounds fantastic. And my question is to Bertrand about, so I think that once this Dia City concept is going to work, do you think that international companies, maybe French companies, would be more interested in joining in? And do you have any idea any plans how to help these companies to benefit from these conditions?
First, I would just like to say that, as I said before, to be a resident of the Dia City law, you need to be a Ukrainian registered company. So, basically, for me, the interest is there. The interest in the IT sector is there. We have done. There has been quite a few French investments in the sector over the last 2-3 years. There are currently some ongoing that will be disclosed once the transaction is finalized. So the interest is there. What happens is there are questions. Yes, there are questions, and maybe what takes time is the fact that as international investors are not, when they are looking and discovering the Ukrainian IT sector, they are seeing things that they are not totally used to. Yes, I mean, on the international levels, you would be used to have a certain number of requirements, as I said. You would, if it's a non-compete provision, to be imposed on the developer. If it's the IP transfer rights by the developer to the company, it's everything that contributes to the legal security of the investment that you make. And currently, what we see is that the investors do realize investments, but they are not totally sure or secured or knowing exactly where they're going. So the aim of the law is really to, or what we see in it and the positive side of it is that due to the fact that there will be a legal framework, well, you will have security on what to expect. It will be better regulated. And what we hope is that, because it will take some time, yes? I mean, you will have at the beginning, if we say registration will open next year, the first companies will start registering, and then the question is, will it become the norm or not? And as always, that's a big question. We do believe yes, or we do hope yes, because once the companies will be registered, then normally it will be easier to attract or to simply sell the companies, or to transfer the companies to a foreign investor, or to simply get capital from venture capitalists or other type of financing that would be coming. So yes, basically we do believe this is going to give, we are putting here, I mean, we're coming from something that was rather unregulated, and it's quite normal because the IT does not necessarily need to be regulated. I mean, nowhere in the world would you have a lot of regulation on the IT activity, but it's to give a framework that gives the basic rules so that everybody understands the game, and that's what we hope for.
Thank you so much for the answer. My question will be to Alex, also about foreign companies. So we at Dia City, of course, the objective is to attract more and more also international companies to register. Are there any plans to make it more simple, maybe for international companies? So how do you see this?
Well, Dія City is one of the projects in the Dia ecosystem. The Dia ecosystem is the major component of the Dia ecosystem is the government services, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the ecosystem, but through Dia, we're moving all the government services online. So, and I think that we can be proud of the fact that we made a business registration one of the fastest in the world through Dia. So it takes around 15 minutes to register a business. But I understand what actually Bertrand says about the cases that probably he has in his mind about international companies that enter another jurisdictions, and they, in both cases, they're big companies. So of course, maybe DA is not applicable, would be for them, but still, there's a very, very simple process. They have to like find a person who has a power of attorney, and then basically, yes, Dia City requires Ukrainian company, but 100% of the ownership of this company could be from France, from anywhere in the world, and this way we think that's pretty much securing the ownership. So you don't need to like look for local partners if you don't trust anyone. I mean, you want to maintain 100% of their assets and everything, and the decision-making process to the structure that you own outside Ukraine. So no problem. Then power of attorney goes with the representative who can actually be a lawyer, and he can actually be even a person without Ukrainian citizenship. So he does physically need to be present in Ukraine. He needs to open a company and be a CEO for the first time until they find someone who is going to be like real CEO of the company and develop it. So I don't see any problems there. We think that having the business registration system online and everything is transparent. So right now you can actually using even public services, you can subscribe for information notices about changing your status of your any of your companies through, like if there is a change in ownership or something, just to prevent or just having use. So I'm going into too deep into your details, but like the quick answer is through people you trust, you can open an entity very fast online and own 100% of them. That's no big deal.
Well, that sounds very promising for international businesses. I hope that those ones who listen to us and are not registered in Ukraine still, so they will make this decision, so you know what to do. But I will ask the question to Louis, like existing entrepreneur already in Ukraine. So just does these conditions sound attractive to you personally? So in your other jurisdictions where Openware is existing, like is it comparable? So how is it different? So can you give like this comparison and your feedback on this?
Yeah, so I can say that the opening and the procedure sounds relatively easy. I have a local director, and having a local firm is easy to have, and the registration seems not the problem. The main blocker for international companies is to make the decision and to make the first step. And usually this comes with the clarity of the law of the framework. And that was what was missing till now. IT is a very simple business. And it did not need it to be overcomplicated, but in practice, this was one of the most complicated places to do business in IT. You pretty much had to set up companies outside, have FOP inside, and have virtually no legal protection with your staff or labor law, because most of them are freelance. So this is a problem both for civil law, and you want, as an entrepreneur, to look into all of these issues and do risk management. But when you have from lawyers answers saying, well, there is a business practice, and there is the law, and there is an area in between the reality, you're not really tempted to come and take the risk, because you cannot calculate it. Whereas when things are well detailed in the framework, like I think Estonia is a good model, they've been attracting a lot of people, and it's a much smaller country, and I believe this was effective. So usually when we are overseas, like now working online, with COVID we are more and more overseas, we take decision overseas without even going in the country itself. So browsing documentation online, having your answer, calling the right lawyer, having confirmation, you're ready to make a move. That's all you need, pretty much. And of course, the key numbers is the tax level, which basically the calculation is, if I would hire the staff elsewhere, am I competing in terms of competence and salary? And this is just the key to finalize the second main, I would say, pillar into decision making for attracting an entrepreneur.
Well, then we're going the right direction, I suppose. This is nice to know. But let's speak about the risks now. So we spoke about the positive side. So the risky side, right? So there is some certain caution that the government might change, and things will also change. So how do you ensure that this is going to be long term and things will not go wrong? I don't know, before happened in Ukraine or like in Belarus or whatever. So how do you see this, Alex?
Well, first of all, if you compare us with Belarus, where actually their similar legal framework was introduced a number of years ago, there are different structure of decision making on a government standpoint. There's a president who can actually the old Belarus High Technology Park was created by his decree, so he kind of signed one paper and it went live. In Ukraine, this is a more complicated system with the check and balances. So first of all, I'm a part of government, and I work with the parliament members in order to, first of all, develop the context of those laws. Then we have to kind of approve this on a government level. In the same time, parliament members have to find a sufficient number of voices and votes for the votes in the parliament. And also we have a presidential branch who have to sign this eventually. If you want to destroy this, it's kind of complicated. So first of all, let's say someone's going to try to bring it down. So he has to find at least 260 parliament members that kind of agree to that. Then Ministry of Digital Transformation has to say yes, and then the president finally also has to say yes. So 3 branches of government has to say yes instead of one man in Belarus. So it's kind of different. And along with that, we also kind of, in order to prevent this and give, especially foreign companies, just in case, in let's say, in the event of everyone went crazy and decided to just cancel this out, so there's a special clause in law that said that it's guaranteed for the next 25 years. So if our government decided to cancel it, it's going to fail on their like international responsibility. Like I'm not a legally experienced in international law, but I understand that this is like you failed on your obligations or something that you promised people, and then you just cancel what they base business on. So 25 years of guarantee that it's going to be working, and which is more important, that taxation level can be worth in it. So that would be my answer, probably.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that in this uncertainty, I think this is like really something to just some grounding thing, because of course we can't say that like nothing is going to happen. Maybe like, I don't know, there will be a big bang tomorrow. But
risk is always there. Yeah. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you kind of get used to risk. It's fine.
Yeah. Mr. Bertrand, I wanted to ask you about your personal feeling and like your vision on the possible risks, and would you advise your clients to register in Dia City when it's opened?
Thank you. I don't have a crystal ball, so I cannot read in the future what will be with Ukraine in several years. I mean, personally, I must say that I'm quite happy that the law was passed. I'm quite happy about the system. I think, as we all say, the current system, I mean, the insecurity is now, for me, the insecurity is with the current system. You have You have companies where basically, how does it work? Company is set up in another company, in another country, mostly in Cyprus. That's where the clients are based. Here are all the costs with the FOP situation, which is a civil law contract, very low taxation, which makes it very attractive. Everybody wins on that. But this situation can be reversed quite easily by the government, because it's not something that has been decided by the government, something that the practice has basically made it continue for many years, and everybody has seen that it worked for 15 years, but will it last? The insecurity is more with the current situation. Can the government accept it to continue? And the government answered this question and said, and the parliament answered this question and said, we want a new legal framework. So for me, the question is not whether the insecurity is coming in the future. The decision is we have put an end to or try to give a solution, because I do believe that both systems are going to continue in parallel for quite a long time, because if there has been some polls, yes, companies have been asked, will you, Ukrainian companies, will you participate to Diia City or not? Do you approve to it? The tendency seems to be, or to be rather negative. I mean, I don't have the exact figures, but I think overwhelming majority is not very much in favor of the project. But I do believe how I see things and how I see Ukraine has evolved always is that once you have a regulation put in place, it will become the standard at a point of time. And as I said, I talked only about international investors looking at the country from the outside, those who are not necessarily already here. And if there is a legal framework, they will say, well, why are you not, if they intend to buy a Ukrainian company, to buy their Ukrainian partners, they will say, well, why are you not registered with this Diia City? That's what I believe will be the effect in the future. Now, are people saying we want to be the first one to register? No, I cannot tell you that the companies or international companies that we represent are really into it now. But I think it's like any new thing. Yes, it needs to first all the laws need to be passed. When the legal framework is totally passed, then registration will start. We saw and we heard from Oleksandr that the registration process will be quite easy, which is indeed a good thing. It's all these positive things that I do hope will bring companies to register more and more. And the question is, who will be the first one to register? That's what rather my question now is. Once you have sufficient people registering, people will say yes, it's a good thing. It gives us more clarity. We were able. You need success story, and once you will have them, then everybody's going to follow. Or that's what I hope for, of course.
I know that there are some companies already that are waiting for the Diia City project to start, because they're already ready to become residents. So I believe that with this thing we will solve it easily to show how it works. And I think it's also a nice thing to have a democracy. So you were totally right that just making such complications and changing the laws is probably a good thing in this case, because then we are sure that it's going to be stable. Louis, I think the last question out of the ones that I have prepared for you is, so you heard already a lot about Diia City concept now. So did you already make a decision? So when it's open, will you become a Diia City resident or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready to consider it, and it is not that big of a deal, honestly, from my point of view. First, moving from no benefit to having benefit is already an improvement. And the second is that you can do it gradually. So I don't feel like I'm jumping with 100 employees in nowhere, you know. So I know I can. My company is already established for 10 years, and I really feel like, what am I going to do with this company if you know, law is not changing? I have no use for it. So now I do, and I think I like to experiment new things. I'm not afraid of it. And again, you know, they're not asking for a full switch. And I do believe, though, that the end game after a couple of years is that the entire industry should be regulated in this fashion. And I don't think you will need to force them, because they will. Businesses like simplicity. That's the main thing. So when you come from a system where there is nothing really written, and you have to come up with your solution with, something that is made framework for doing business, there is no solution. It's going to work.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Sounds really promising. And I was told that there could be some questions from the audience. So I also have a couple more, but maybe if somebody wants to ask any questions from the audience, or maybe in I don't think that we have the one from our online, because online speakers can also ask questions. So if anybody wants to ask any question, now is the time. So, but if not, I will ask a question to Alex. There was a lot of discussion about Dia City concept, and just do you currently have the support of all the industry? So how is it at the current point? Does companies understood these benefits and united around this concept?
Well, there indeed were a lot of conversation about how it's supposed to work, what's wrong with it, and we had a lot of arguments about that. There was a number of different concepts even, so it's already almost 2 years that we working on this project. It's almost done, but for 2 years a lot of things were changed. And by the way, there were a lot of changes coming from industry, from representatives, from associations, and I think eventually we have a much more better regulation that it was introduced in the first place. So I really thankful for all the contributions, even those who were criticizing, they also were contributing, because they're more than 80% of things that were suggested, we actually they were accounted for. So it's a very general number, but anyway, there are still. For some people, there are still debates if I'm going in or not. We have, I would say, more than 100 of companies that want to jump in first, and because of different reasons. One of the reasons, some companies just looking for venture capital, and for some, and they had problems attracting capital because of this FOB structure and everything. So they just waiting for Dia City like this. So I mean, craving almost for that. Come on, guys, when it's going to start? Because I just want to change my corporate structure, because I have different plans, and that's so we don't feel that there's just lack of there will be a lack of applications, but at the same time, I saw this research. There's a poll actually. The number of companies voted. There were 30% of them said we gonna step in immediately. The majority said that we can wait for the best practices, for some experience to come and see how it's gonna work. And just some small portion said, no, we're not going to use it. And we also respect that, because in the law, we intentionally put this, we don't put pressure on anyone. The current system continues to work. And if you, for some reason, you don't want to change anything, I don't know, maybe you don't have enough money, or you don't just want to focus on something else, that's all right. That's you can go on and do business here the way you do it, and but in a standard environment, in a general environment, you won't have those venture tools and ability to use gig contracts and everything. So we believe that eventually they're going to realize that it's nothing wrong with it. It's working. So we want to use those opportunities and benefits. So eventually, I think a lot of people are going to change their mind. So I'm pretty much optimistic about that.
This is a very positive note. And if nobody else has... Oh, you have a question? Oh, fantastic.
Thank you. Mazars Ukraine. I'm dealing with tax and legal, and we really have number of questions from clients regarding the Diia City, those who are entered into Ukraine recently, and those who used to work or working now for a long period. And I totally agree with Oleksandr that some of the clients, they simply ready. And if we're talking about the small or medium companies, they saying that we already structurize as our business, like put this risk, tax risk of hidden labor arrangements like aside and start working in clear environments. And some of the businesses, they are saying that we will wait for practice, we will wait for the amendments to the criminal codes to receive additional protection, etc., etc. So my question maybe, again, what is your expectation once the concept implemented and start working and companies start changing their, like start becoming the resident of the Diia City? For those companies, especially big companies who decided to proceed under the current arrangements, whether the risk of like aggressive approach of the tax authorities, of like challenging this labor, hidden labor relationship structure will increase or not? You can.
Well, quite frankly, we think that for the first year it's going to be some turbulence, and I believe that some of them, even on the local levels, and this is what we observe on a number of different industries, that if on the like a country level we do some policy making, then regions that they need to some time to follow. But for that purpose, we totally realize that, we understand that could be a risk, and that's why I said like we're going to have personal approach. So let's say Louis have a problem, so we can work this together. So let's say you work with the Kharkiv administration, tax administration, because you registered then, or in Lviv or in another city, and maybe they haven't heard of it. So sometimes it happens. So this is our job, to come with to get in touch with each other and join forces and say, like, listen, this is being done according to the law, and this is how you should treat this. This is the regulation, and this is your job you're supposed to do. So we, as a conclusion, I would say that yeah, there could be such cases, but we'll be there for everyone who is a resident of the city to figure this out together.
Alexander, I just clarify that I am pretty sure for the residents of Diia City there will be benefits, and I consider this a great step for Ukraine and for industry. I am asking in respect of those companies who will decide to wait, and maybe you have like feeling of the approach of the tax authorities, whether they will start challenging those companies because like some industry receive benefits, so please use it. If you are not using it, you're under pressure, you're under potential tax audits, and
well,
this is on the other side.
Yeah, well, that's probably other side of the coin, but like they're working right now, so maybe this question even to you, like, do you feel pressure on at the time being? Probably not. And this is also like a promise from our ministry that if someone is going to be like prosecuted, or at least there would be such initiative, we're going to help those companies to maintain the status quo. So would they be? Would they follow some companies across the country? Probably yes. Would they get something from it? Probably not.
So this is some kind of advertisement of the Dia City that everybody need to jump in.
So this was the last question. Thank you very much for this. And I thank all the panelists for these insightful ideas and sharing your vision. And I hope that together, sharing these ideas and sharing the vision and our forces, our strengths, we will make it nice for Ukrainian and also for international business so that it becomes attractive at the location, as Alex said, it was the objective. Thank you all very much for this. Yes, and I have an announcement for the live speakers. So in several minutes there will be another second conference with the French ambassador. So I'm inviting you, those of you that are watching it online, to change the links. So there was another link sent to you. So please use this one. So this conference will start in several minutes. Thank you all very much, and let's applaud each other so that Dia City becomes a reality.